In today's lecture, we are going to discuss next topic of your syllabus, and that is NSAIDs, means non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. As the name suggests, these drugs are used in inflammation, so anti-inflammatory drugs, and they does not possess steroidal nucleus in their structure. That's why they are known as non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. Other than anti-inflammatory action, NSAIDs have another two major actions, and those are analgesic and antipyretic. Analgesic means pain removing action, and antipyretic means used in pyrexia, means used in fever. NSAIDs lower down our body temperature in fever. That's why they have also action as an antipyretic. So, we can define NSAIDs as the drugs used primarily to treat inflammation, mild to moderate pain, and fever, and they are called non-steroidal drugs as they lack steroidal nucleus in their structure. And this will be the definition of NSAIDs. Basically, analgesics are of two types. One is narcotic and another is non-narcotics. Narcotics means opioids and non-narcotics means non-opioids. As NSAIDs have also analgesic property and they lack steroidal nucleus in the structure, so they are also known as non-narcotic or non-steroidal or non-opioid analgesics because they have also analgesic properties other than anti-inflammatory. So, NSAIDs are also known as non-narcotic analgesics with antipyretic and anti-inflammatory action. Non-narcotic analgesics અને NSAIDs બંને same class નથી, but NSAIDs comes under the class non-narcotic analgesics. NSAIDs non-narcotic analgesics class ની અંદર આવે છે because NSAIDs પાસે પણ analgesic property છે અને they does not possess steroidal nucleus in their structure. These two classes are not same. Most of the time, non-narcotic analgesics and NSAIDs બંને same છે એવું confusion થાય છે, but these two classes are not same. પણ NSAIDs છે non-narcotic analgesics ની અંદર આવે છે. Non-narcotic analgesics માં આ NSAIDs સિવાયની પણ few drugs આવે છે. Right? Now, how these non-opioid or non-narcotic analgesics or NSAIDs differ than opioids? So, first difference is non-narcotics do not contain steroidal nucleus in their structure, and second is they are less potent as an analgesics than opioids. Opioids કે non-narcotic analgesics છે અને non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs છે because NSAIDs are more potent as an anti-inflammatory drugs and non-narcotic analgesics are more potent as an analgesic. એટલે જ non-narcotic analgesics છે અને non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs કહેવાય છે. Next difference is NSAIDs do not produce drowsiness or CNS depression. Opioids produce drowsiness while NSAIDs does not produce drowsiness. Next main difference is, as we already know, opioids or narcotics are addictive while these NSAIDs or non-narcotics are not addictive. And last, they possess antipyretic and anti-inflammatory properties other than analgesics. Right? Now, to understand this anti-inflammatory class, first we have to understand the general process of inflammation. Directly આપણે classification કે mechanism of action કરશું તો તમને નહીં સમજાય, એટલે આ ક્લાસને સમજવા માટે first we will see general process of inflammation. What is inflammation? Inflammation is not a destructive process, it is a constructive process, it is a healing process. It is normal protective physiological response of living tissue to injury provided that injury is not of such degree as to cause necrosis, means cell death. Injury is not of such degree as to cause necrosis, and thus injuries produces normal protective physiological response, which is known as inflammation. This response involves reaction in tissue cells, reaction in blood cells and blood vessels. And main aim of this process of inflammation is to destroy causative organism and to heal the injury. There are main 4 clinical signs of inflammation: Keller, rubber, tumor and dollar. Keller means heat. Calorie કહીએ છીએ આપણે unit heat નો, right? So Keller means heat, rubber means redness, tumor means swelling and dollar means pain. These are the main 4 clinical signs of inflammation. Injury initiates activation of membrane phospholipid system, complement system, mast cell system, platelet aggregation system and clotting system. And collectively all these systems act to heal injury. Injury જ્યારે થાય છે ત્યારે આ બધી જ સિસ્ટમ એક્ટિવેટ થાય છે અને આ બધી જ સિસ્ટમ collectively act to heal injury. એમાં the first system, membrane phospholipid, is main responsible for inflammation. So our focus here is on the first system, which is membrane phospholipid. You can see here our cell membrane is made up of bilayer of phospholipids. When injury occurs, which means mechanical or chemical stimuli, it activates phospholipase enzyme, and this enzyme act on membrane phospholipid and releases arachidonic acid from membrane phospholipid. Arachidonic acid is stored with membrane phospholipid and phospholipase A releases arachidonic acid from this phospholipid. Further, from arachidonic acid, 2 main pathways are there. First is cyclooxygenase pathway and second is lipooxygenase pathway. From cyclooxygenase pathway, 2 isoforms of cyclooxygenase enzyme, COX-1 and COX-2, act on arachidonic acid and produces prostaglandin G2, and from this G2 produces prostaglandin H2. And on prostaglandin H2, 3 enzymes act. First is prostaglandin isomerase, second is thromboxane synthase, and third is prostacyclin synthase. Prostaglandin isomerase act on prostaglandin H2 and produces prostaglandin E2, D2 and F2 alpha. Thromboxane synthase produces thromboxane A2 and B2, and prostacyclin synthase produces prostaglandin I2 from prostaglandin H2. And these 3 prostaglandins E2, D2 and F2 majorly causes vasodilation, which is responsible for the inflammation. Now, on the other side, on lipooxygenase pathway, lipooxygenase enzyme act on arachidonic acid and produces 5-HPTE, which means 5-hydroperoxy eicosapentaenoic acid, and from this 5-HPTE it is converted into leukotriene A4, and from leukotriene A4 B4, C4 and D form, other isoforms of leukotrienes are produced. Leukotrienes also produces vasodilation to some extent, which are responsible for inflammation. ફરીથી, injury activates phospholipase A enzyme, which releases arachidonic acid from membrane phospholipid. On arachidonic acid, 2 enzymes work. One is cyclooxygenase and second is lipooxygenase. And in cyclooxygenase pathway, first prostaglandin G2 is produced, then H2 is produced, and on H2 three enzymes work: isomerase, thromboxane synthase and prostacyclin synthase. Isomerase produces three prostaglandin E2, D2 and F2, which causes vasodilation, mostly which is responsible for inflammation. Thromboxane synthase produces thromboxanes, prostacyclin synthase produces prostaglandin I2. On the other side, lipoxygenase produces leukotrienes B4, C4 and D4, which also cause vasodilation, which is responsible for inflammation. So, these prostaglandins are the main components which are responsible for inflammation, and they are produced from arachidonic acid. We can conclude that. Prostaglandin potentiates early inflammatory response by causing vasodilation, increased permeability, facilitating cellular infiltration and sensitizing pain receptors. Prostaglandin potentiate inflammatory response, also sensitize pain receptors. Chemically, prostaglandins are cyclopentane derivatives formed from polyunsaturated fatty acids. They have 20 carbon atoms with cyclopentane ring with 2 adjacent side chains. As we have seen, prostaglandins are synthesized from arachidonic acid in human, and this synthesis is catalyzed by cyclooxygenase enzyme. These enzymes have two isoforms, cyclooxygenase 1 and cyclooxygenase 2, which are known as COX1 and COX2. COX1 is constitutive isoform of cyclooxygenase and COX2 is inducible isoform of cyclooxygenase. Constitutive means COX1 is involved in general constitutional functions of our body, which means normal physiological housekeeping functions of our body, and COX1 is present almost in all normal cells, while COX2 is present in minute amount and is induced by cytokines at the site of inflammation. That's why they are known as inducible. And COX2 catalyzes synthesis of prostaglandins, which are involved in process of inflammation. COX1 છે એ normal cells માં present છે, while COX2 is present at the site of induced થાય છે, inducible at the site of inflammation. COX1 is involved in normal physiological means housekeeping functions of our body, while COX2 produces prostaglandins which are involved in process of inflammation. And our drugs NSAIDs work majorly on these two enzymes, COX1 and COX2. They inhibit this COX1 and COX2, so the cyclooxygenase pathway is blocked, so prostaglandins cannot be produced, and so process of inflammation is stopped. This will be the mechanism of NSAIDs that we will see in mechanism of action in the next lecture. Okay.